The first time my CEO locked eyes with me across the bar, I knew my life was about to split into a before and an after, and I had no idea which version of me would survive the night. The bar was louder than my thoughts, a low-ceiling place soaked in amber light and cheap laughter. I was there because it was Friday and because I had nowhere else to pour the week out of my chest. My tie was loosened, my phone face down, my mind exhausted from pretending I didn't notice how invisible I felt at work. That's when the room shifted. Conversations blurred, the air tightened, and then I saw her, my CEO, standing just a few feet away, a glass untouched in her hand, eyes sharp and tired and far too human for the woman who ruled boardrooms without mercy. She walked straight toward me, heels confident, expression unreadable. When she leaned in, her perfume cut through the smoke and noise, and her whisper struck like a match to gasoline. "Take me home," she said, her voice trembling just enough to scare me, "or you're fired." For a heartbeat, I thought I'd misheard. My brain scrambled for logic, for policy manuals, for reasons this couldn't be real. This was the woman who signed my paychecks, who never smiled in meetings, who fired people with a single nod. My mouth went dry. Around us, no one noticed. The music swelled. She straightened, looking every inch the untouchable executive again, but her eyes betrayed something raw, fear, desperation, maybe both. I swallowed and nodded, because refusing didn't feel like an option, and because something in me knew this wasn't about power. It was about survival. The drive to her place was silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Streetlights painted her face in flashes of golden shadow. She stared out the window, arms crossed, breathing shallow. I wanted to ask what was wrong, wanted to remind her I was just an employee, not a solution, but I didn't. When we reached her apartment, a sleek tower overlooking the city, her confidence cracked. Inside, the silence was heavy. She kicked off her shoes, sank onto the couch, and finally looked at me like I was a person, not a subordinate. "I didn't mean it like that," she said quietly. The threat. I was scared. That was the moment everything changed. She told me about the board meeting that afternoon, about the silent vote of no confidence, about the ultimatum delivered with polite smiles. Step down quietly or be pushed out publicly. Years of building the company, of sacrificing relationships, of choosing strength over softness, and now she was alone, terrified, and unable to bear it by herself. I listened. I didn't fix anything. I just stayed. That night, nothing inappropriate happened. No crossed lines, no dramatic confessions. I slept on the far edge of the couch, staring at the ceiling, realizing that power doesn't protect you from breaking, it just hides the cracks better. In the morning, she handed me coffee like an apology and said, "I won't fire you." Not ever. What I said was wrong. I believed her. But I also knew my life was already different. The next Monday, rumors exploded like fireworks. Someone had seen us together. Whispers followed me down hallways. My inbox filled with cold stares disguised as emails. She remained distant at work, professional to the bone, but something unspoken passed between us. Then came the real challenge. HR called me in. An anonymous complaint. Conflict of interest. I was offered a choice: resign quietly or face an investigation that would end my career. I didn't expect her to fight. CEOs don't burn themselves to save employees. But she did. She stood before the board and told the truth, not the full story, but enough. She admitted her weakness, her mistake, and took responsibility. She stepped down on her own terms, not because she was forced, but because she chose integrity over pride. The company reeled. Stocks dipped. Headlines flared. And then, slowly, respect followed. She left. I stayed. Or at least, I thought that was how it would end. Months passed. The noise faded. I worked harder than ever, fueled by something I couldn't name. One evening, as I'd packed up late, a familiar voice echoed behind me. "You still drink your coffee too fast," she said, smiling softly. She wasn't my CEO anymore. Just a woman standing in the glow of office lights, lighter somehow, freer. That was the second beginning. The one no one warns you about. We talked, honestly this time. About boundaries. About fear. About what it means to see someone at their worst and still choose respect. We didn't rush. We didn't hide. When we finally stepped into something more, it was because we wanted to, not because of threats or power or loneliness. The night she whispered at the bar felt like the end of everything I knew. But it was really the start of learning that strength isn't about control, it's about courage. About owning your mistakes. About choosing people over positions. And sometimes, the moment that scares you the most is the one that teaches you who you really are.